This meeting is called to order. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday, March 25th, regular meeting of the Sachem Board of Education. At this time, I'd like to ask everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, which is going to be led by our Girl Scouts representing Troop 344 and 2458 from Seneca and Grundy.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, girls. Great job. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mrs. Trombetta for the superintendent's report.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. We're going to start with some wonderful news. I'm going to invite Mr. Tuffer up here. It is amazing what our students do on a daily basis, but we have one young man here tonight that we're going to celebrate who is outstanding and already very accomplished. So I'm going to ask Mr. Tuffer to come up and introduce Arush to us right now.
Good evening, President Reynolds, Vice President Scavo, Board Trustees, Ms. Trombetta, and the rest of the Cabinet. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to highlight one of Waverly's second grade students, Arush Good, for an outstanding accomplishment. Arush has been part of the Waverly family since kindergarten, and throughout that time, he has consistently stood out as an exemplary student. He is funny, kind, thoughtful, a voracious reader, and a prolific writer, and a truly hardworking learner. And Arush, at only 8 years old at this point, recently published his own book, currently for sale on Amazon, titled Arush's Growing Up Journey. Arush's book is a collection of true stories reflecting on real experiences that have taught him important lessons about imagination, hard work, friendship, bravery, and mindset. The book highlights how even small moments can shape who we become, and Arush shares his journey of learning to be the best version of himself one story at a time. To see a student at such a young age take the initiative to write and publish a book is incredibly impressive, and it speaks both to his creativity and to his dedication. I'd like to recognize Arush's second grade teacher, Mr. Trentowski, for supporting Arush's growth as a writer and a learner, as well as Arush's proud family members, many of whom are here tonight, for encouraging and supporting him along the way. I left a few copies of Arush's book for the board to peruse, but I would like to close by sharing a brief excerpt from the message from the author section at the back, the end of Arush's book. It starts, "If you're a kid with stories in your heart, here's something important. You don't need to wait until you're older to write a book. You don't need fancy words or perfect sentences. You just need to be honest about what you feel. If you've ever felt anything big, excitement, fear, joy, confusion, courage, write about it. Your stories matter. Your voice matters. Someone out there might need to hear exactly what you have to say. Writing helped me understand myself and made me feel proud of who I'm becoming. So grab a notebook, a pencil, or even just your thoughts and start. You never know where one small story can take you. The world needs more kid authors, and you might be the next one." Arush, needless to say, we're all incredibly proud of you and all of your accomplishments. Excited to celebrate this achievement with you tonight, and look forward to reading future stories that you will write. On behalf of the district and the Sachem Board of Education, I do want to present you with a certificate for your amazing accomplishment here this evening. If you could all please join me in celebrating Arush. But I do want to know if anyone on the board or in the cabinet has any questions for Arush about his writing process. I'm sure he'd be more than happy to answer them.
Arush, can you tell us what made you want to publish this book?
My mom encouraged me with the confidence and courage. My mom's friend named Aryan, he wrote a book too. I liked it a lot. It was like his true life stories. That's what encouraged me to write this book, and my mom's and my family's courage to help me write a book and print them, publish them, everything. It's just easy. Don't work hard. You don't need to work hard.
Well, we're very impressed.
Thank you.
Mrs. Trenkowski, I saw you just walk in. If you want, can you come up and join us since you're his teacher?
And family too. Get a picture. Come on.
Now we get to celebrate some more students, and I'm going to invite Mr. Jackalitz and Mr. Machio in so they can celebrate a lot of our musical students tonight.
Hello, everybody. My name is David Jacklich. I am one of the chairpersons for music here in Sachem. And today we are celebrating our 9th through 12th grade students who have achieved high honors in music. I do want to start by saying that this is Tech Week for both musicals, and many of these students are involved with that. And so I'm going to read more names than the number of students who will be coming in. And the students who were not able to make it tonight were also invited to next week's board meeting so that they'll have a chance to be recognized. But I just wanted to read out all the names. So we are recognizing for a few different organizations. The first one is the Long Island String Festival Association, or LISFA. And this recognizes orchestra musicians, violin, viola, cello, and bass. And it's in the entirety of Suffolk County that they're competing against. We also have SCMEA, which is the Suffolk County Music Educators Association. Tonight we're talking about the Division 3, which is the 9th and 10th grade students, and that's the eastern half of Suffolk County. We also have NISCAME, the New York State Council of Music Administrators Education, and that is for all county for 11th and 12th graders throughout all of Suffolk County, and also students who are being recognized on the state level for NISMA All-State. So I'm going to read a lot of names, and we have a few students in the hallway who, when they hear their name, they will come in. For LISFA, we are recognizing Abby Tanacor, Isabella Meichner, Cora Gillespie, Matthew Umbenhauer, Ethan Edelman, Christopher Schilling, Jillian Rabbit, Annabelle Ramsden, Mia DeJesus, Ariana Huyn, Emma Calia, Elena Tramontana, Sophia Fidel, Zachary Cuvier. For SCMEA Division 3, we're recognizing Matthew Rubenstein, Rachel Steffens, Jack Kelleher, Natalia Tilly Lind, Alexandra Bialik, Samantha Baker, Michael Colon, Yadiel Cabrera, Noah Pelays, Willis Gazada, Sophie Krasuski, Nathaniel Rivera, Tyler Gavarecki, Avery Malfatone, Adriana Ingenito, Lucia Brucaleri, Annabelle Ramsden, Mia DeJesus, Ariana Huyn, Elena Tramontana, Gianna Camor, Emma Calia, Zachary Cuvier, Sophia Fidel, Jillian Rabbit, Jessica Phillips, Sophia Grasafi. For SCMEA All County Jazz, we have Tyler Gavarecki again, Kayla Kerner, Matthew Rubenstein. And for NISCAME All County, Christopher Madlick, Christopher Sambolin, Allison Oriello, Hannah Frericks, Aliana Polo, Tristan Prin, Emma Rudge, Isabella Schwainer, Addison Wazilishin, Kylie Hughes, Jake Lightgeb, Anastasia Smith, Alexa DeReyes, Caitlin Houth, Roger Ortez Sanchez, Abigail Rabbit, Cora Gillespie, George Haydens, Isabella Meichner, Amanda Morta, Abby Tanacor, Alex Tavares, and Matthew Umbenhauer. And the students either selected or selected as alternates for All-State include Aliana Polo, Isabella Schwainer, Cora Gillespie, Roger Ortiz Sanchez, Matthew Umbenhauer, Tristan Prin, George Haynes, Isabella Meichner, Amanda Morta, and Abby Tanacor.
I'd like to invite up Mrs. Caruana, Mrs. Shepherd, and Ms. Croft to do a special ed presentation for us.
Good evening. Thank you for having us this evening. We just wanted to take a few minutes. I think we're going to put up just a couple of slides just for you to have a reference. But we're here this evening just to share a change in one of the ratios of programs that we're proposing from our special class 811, and we're going to change and increase that ratio to a 1011. What that means is instead of 8 students, 1 special education teacher, and a teacher assistant, we're going to increase the student size to 10 with 1 class of special education teacher and 1 teacher assistant. If you could, you can progress. Thank you. So over the course of the last couple of years, we've started to notice the change in the profile of students that we were seeing transition from preschool into kindergarten, where the students they could handle a little bit more of an environment, but weren't quite ready for the rigor of our 12-1-1 special class setting. So we've been discussing it over a course of time. In this school year, we had an opportunity to meet with our special education teachers and the support staff of our 811 and 813 programs to discuss that changing need. And we've settled on that increase of the ratio. And what this means is that we're just being responsive to their learning style and creating an opportunity for them to be in a less restrictive setting than our 811 setting would provide. And we're in the process of developing those program guides with our students and staff. The student impact really for us is a positive one. It allows them to have more peer interaction. Having a smaller, slightly larger group size gives the teachers more flexibility when grouping students for learning needs. When we look at the academic need, it's giving us that gap, bridging that gap between the 8s and the 12s. So it's giving them a little bit more of an opportunity to experience that grade level curriculum while maintaining all of the supports that the IEP mandates. We are looking to phase this in, starting with our kindergarten students. We are not looking to change the current program or ratios of any students already in the school programs, but yet fading in from our preschool to kindergarten transition. It has been received very well in conversation and discussion with our parents who are making that transition. They're very happy to hear that their students can have a slightly larger grouping. So far it seems to be favorable. We are going to monitor through the course of the upcoming school year, see if there's any adjustments or changes that need to be made. But it's a great opportunity for our kids to have a larger grouping of experiences.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's open up to the board, see if there's any questions. Meredith?
Thank you so much. I think that this is a great idea. I just have one concern. So
Sure.
we're going from 10-1-1, then we have a 12-1-1,
Mhm.
then we have a 15. No, we're going from 8, but we're looking to have a 10, a 12, and then a 15.
Yes.
Is there children that are going to fall behind because they're not quite ready for a 10? They would have been okay on an 8.
So we're still maintaining our 813 population. So
Okay.
they'll still be the special class 813. Those students have a more intensive learning need where they require that one-to-one discrete trial instruction. That option is still available.
Okay. I think this is great. I think being with more peers makes them thrive better. So thank you for doing this.
Of course.
Great, Steph?
Can I ask what other school districts offer this grouping, and also if it's offered in alternative placements like BOCES and stuff like that?
The BOCES programs are typically 6s and 8s.
Yeah.
So they cater to a group of students who require a more intensive learning style. And some of our other local districts, Pat Med has a 10, and I believe Middle Country is also offering the 10-1, and they're calling them bridge programs.
Do they have 811 still, or are they
Yes.
they're keeping the 811 to transition to the 10 to the 12?
Mhm.
I know some BOCES programs do have 12-on-1,
Mhm.
and some of those kids are on a Regents track as well. So would these kids eventually, are these alternately assessed students, or are they going to be eventually to the 12 to the 15?
Those
Is
are
that the goal?
These are the students who are transitioning in, and we're not sure. Our goal is, yes, to get them into the 12-on-1 and more into our 15-1 program so that they can be Regents bound. There are students who are transitioning in and they don't quite have the readiness skills yet. They don't require that intensive 813 discrete trial instruction, but they don't have the skills for that 12-1 curriculum yet. So it's bridging that gap for them, preparing them with that larger group size so that they can make those gains a little bit in a smaller environment, more controlled, before we move them into those 12s.
They're still considered an alternately assessed
They're
student?
not alternately assessed in the kindergarten, first and second grade. We typically consider that more in the second to third grade transition year. And that's individually decided. It doesn't have to, not every student in the room has to be alternately assessed. It's based on student need at the elementary level.
Okay. I'm sure I'm going to have more questions, so I'll let other people.
Anybody else questions? Yeah, Meredith and then Rob.
So you'll hear in a little while the legislative committee is working really hard on AIS, and I think that this kind of goes hand in hand really nicely. And then New York State it's not finalized yet in the budget, but New York State is looking to have a more robust universal pre-K. So I think with having that, and we already do special ed pre-K so well here. So I think with having that, I think this is all going to kind of, it might sound scary in the beginning, but I think it's all going to really fall very nicely in place.
Thank you.
Rob and then Steph.
One question I have is we're transitioning this in with our kindergartners. Is that correct? And then I'm
Correct.
assuming that next year it will have a 10-1-1 first grade section. And then the following year, second year section.
If that's what the students require, yes,
Yeah.
we'll maintain the ratio. At that point, we can decide if the students need the 12 or if they need something more intensive like our 813. If they are achieving success, they're making progress in that 10-1-1, we will maintain into the first grade, second grade, and so forth.
So we initiated this year and we've realized that there's a child kindergarten that may be falling, struggling a little bit in that 10-1. Will they have an opportunity to go into an 8-1? Okay, in that same year?
We would be considering them for the 813.
8-1-3.
Mhm.
Same year or the following year?
Same year.
Same year.
The special education is fluid.
Okay.
We move students between programs whenever it's appropriate based upon the data that the teachers gather and collect.
Okay, thank you.
In a perfect world for me, I would like to see the 811 get phased out, introduce the 1011 for the students that need it, but have an 811 option because the 813 is really intensive. And I know it sounds on paper that it's only a difference of a number, but it's really the profile of the students in an 813 is a big difference than the students in an 811. And I would assume the 811 student would be more closer to a 1011 than an 813. So I wouldn't like to see a possible 811 student have to go to an 813 because the 1011 wasn't appropriate. I can't believe the numbers I just did. I'm very proud of myself.
So our goal is to, if it's successful and this is what our students require, then that's what we're going to start to move towards.
So follow up, could we keep 811 as a backup through the transition period to make sure we're not losing kids? I would hate to see a 1011 student not do well and have to go all, and this sounds ridiculous to people who don't know these ratios, but to have to go all the way down to an 813.
If we have a population of students that require an 811 section, we're certainly considering that.
Beth, obviously this is something brand new, right? It's a shift in how we educate our special needs kids. As far as like feedback, did we seek any feedback from our current special ed teachers
We
as
did.
to and if
Yes.
and if you showed us what the feedback was it positive? Was it something that were they hesitant? Are they all on board with it?
Favorable. They too have experienced, and that's where this started. They were experiencing different profiles of students coming in, thinking that they could handle a little bit more. If they had more students in the class, they had a greater experience. And that's where the conversation started, was with our teachers. You're welcome.
Yep. One more stuff.
Okay, so in a positive light, this could be a great transition because we have more students qualifying for UPK and getting pre-K interventions, where in the past, 813 students and 811 students didn't necessarily come from a preschool environment. So maybe they're getting more prepared because they're starting school earlier. Could that be why you're seeing a more need? Are they coming in more prepared as kindergartners?
I'm
With
not sure
support?
why. It's the preschool population that has kind of shifted a little bit. I can't say or speak to why that has changed. I do think that there's greater access through our CPSE process, that we're seeing kids who can do a little bit more than what our 811 profile of a student had been meant to be in years past.
Right,
It was always
right.
that functional life skill program, but we're seeing kids who have the greater ability for curriculum, grade level curriculum, and they
Right.
need more of that management and strategies in their classrooms. So the
Okay.
smaller ratio allows the teachers to be able to teach them those readiness skills while giving them the curriculum at a much slower pace.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else? Great. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Mr. Vaccaro up right now to talk about our Educational Foundation Gala that is coming up in April 15th.
Ms. Trombetta, Cabinet, board members, appreciate you always and the support for our Education Foundation. So our second gala is April 15th. It's at Flower Field, 6 o'clock, sachemfoundation.org for tickets. As a reminder, or for all the thousands watching on our live stream, you can support the programs that we offer through grants, which are selected by our grant committee. And we've gone through this full cycle once already. Last year, we were able to raise $25,000. Funded 8 different programs across the district, some of them district-wide, some of them specific, like sensory rooms, like audiovisual equipment, like iPads for art students, and so on. And the students are all actively taking part in it and utilizing the projects and the programs, and a lot of video and social media content to come about that, because I've been documenting all of it to make sure we show it, obviously in my capacity with the district, but because it's great. I spent 2 hours the other day with Samoset students who make coffee in the morning and deliver the coffee to teachers in the hallways, and they get money in exchange. They learn about commerce and they learn about interpersonal skills. And the fact that our grants helped fund that program was just really special to see. And the community will see it when I put the video out there. I basically shot a mini documentary, which I have to sit there and edit. So we have our second gala. We want to raise more money. We want to do more grants. April 15th, we'll be honoring a couple of current teachers, a couple of students, a couple of former employees, and the Sachem Library as a community organization that has a tremendous impact as well here, obviously the library. So come on down, buy a ticket, buy a table, get a sponsorship. It's quickly approaching. It's always a chore to sell tickets or to fundraise for anything, but what's more important than the kids and the projects that we can offer them beyond the regular scope of your budget and your work that you do every day? So looking forward to another great gala. I think it's going to be another, the beauty of it is it's a celebration of who we are. Yes, it's a gala. Yes, it's a fundraiser. Yes, it's another night away from home in a busy spring schedule. It doesn't happen like this at all throughout the year where we can all come together and celebrate the district. We celebrate in pockets. It's like we may be one community, but we're so parochial and like, yeah, we have our football thing and we have our drama thing, and we're all so secluded in our own little worlds. This is a night where we come together. It doesn't matter what school, what side. It's all Sachem. It's all positive, and it's forward facing. We have to continue to be together and work together as a community with the same interest, which is the kids. And that's what you do. That's what you do as volunteers and obviously as cabinet members. But it's a special time. Like last year's was eye-opening for some people that told me after the fact of like, wow, I didn't expect it to be like that. Well, what did you expect? This is Sachem. We should be doing something bigger and better and stronger than everybody else. And we are. And listen, there's plenty of school districts that have foundations. Obviously the foundation is run by community volunteers, not the district itself. And there's plenty of districts that raise like $100,000 a year. We're not there yet, but we should be. So anyway, April 15th, sachemfoundation.org for tickets. Reach out to any of us or me. You can ask questions, comments about sponsorships or whatever. But I'm here. Looking forward to it. Appreciate the support. Listen, for all the principals tuning in, I'm looking at you literally through the camera. A table for every building would make me stress less about selling tickets to hit my minimum guarantee. Every building should have a table. And I'm not like looking at Kevin Tuffer or the Waverly group. He's just happened to be right there. But that's how I viewed this when we started this thing. Like, the rest of it after we sell 15 tables should be easy. It's just never easy. So that's my PSA to buy tickets, buy tables. And Arush, by the way, we got to get that kid on the radio. On WSHR, and I want to interview him, and I want to talk about his stories and have him talk about the book. So, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
Any questions? Any? You have any questions, comments, anything?
If anybody wants to donate anything for baskets, I'm on the Basket Foundation,
Yes.
Basket Committee, whatever. So please reach out to me. And also, Chris, if they can't make it, there's no reason why they still can't donate.
Yeah.
So they just tell them about that.
There's a button on the top that says like support on sachemfoundation.org. Click it. You can donate right through our Stripe account. Tax deductible. It's a 501c3 nonprofit. You can donate $1. You can donate $100,000. Whatever you'd like to do. So yeah. There's some heavy roller alumni that I'm trying to get to do their thing. So that's it. Thank you. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
And next, I know this is why you all came here tonight. Mrs. Sarakis is going to continue with our budget presentation.
This is the big stuff now. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to jump right in before Kevin leaves so he can. All right. Allison, which way am I? Okay. Well, we are on budget draft. I think it's 4 or 5. But this is not working. Okay. Can you go back? Was that you or me? Okay. Well, so tonight we're going to review some of our curriculum codes. We're going to recap where we were, which is we covered salaries starting back in December, and we'll look at the non-instructional codes that we have covered so far, and then we'll review some next steps. So this is going to be a short presentation, if I can get the pointer to work. Okay. So looking at our curriculum codes, when we did salaries, we know salaries are the largest part of our budget, and I'll get to that later. So when we talk about curriculum, this is everything but salaries. So these are our materials and supplies. These are our BOCES codes, our professional development, and our contractual codes. So we're not talking huge numbers in when we look at our budget as a whole, but like in this first section here, mostly administrative. It's a total of $3 million. And you'll see where we do have these negatives. Mr. Sachs's office has been working very diligently on our BOCES commitments for next year. Now that that portal is open and we have the actual rates, we are seeing some reductions in our BOCES based on our actual usage and what we're projecting for the upcoming school year. So that's where you'll see on that first line item, the 2011, there's a reduction of approximately $100,000 there. That's related to printing,
because we're no longer printing these larger packets, and we're ordering more of our math curriculum now through our textbook codes. So these are where we're seeing some of these reductions. You will note on the bottom, I do have a blue star there because I just wanted to highlight we're in the second year now of the Sachem Academy. So our home teaching code, while we're holding it steady at the $225,000, I did want to highlight that since the implementation of the Sachem Academy, we've been able to reduce that budget line item by $125,000. So I just wanted to draw attention to that there. Next slide. Okay, so looking at the rest of our codes, this is more of our music and cultural arts, our health education, our occupational education, alternative high school, and instructional technology, and those types of codes there. So again, you'll see some reductions, and these are based on our BOCES commitments for next year. And then one of our larger increases here you'll see is in instructional technology. And what is included in that $1.3 million increase is we're looking at doing a refresh on our Chromebooks, and we're doing 2 full grade levels of Chromebook refresh, plus some other computers and MacBooks that are used in some of our special programs. And also, there was an increase in our BOCES line item of instructional technology. But most of this was really pretty straightforward, and a lot of it is BOCES related. So these are all of our curriculum codes. So does anyone have any questions on those codes? I'll get to.
Michelle, could you just go back to one slide to your little blue star?
Sure.
So just a question. If the Sachem Academy was to expand to include more and more students, that number would go down and down?
I would think if new students that are currently on home instruction do get recommended and come to the academy, yes, then that code would come down. And that is our contractual home teaching code. That's not our in-district teachers that do home instruction.
Right.
That's our contractual code. Yes.
How many children are in the academy?
It's 60.
Right now, we have approximately 60.
And is that like our limit at the time?
Nope.
No? Okay. Good.
So the occupational education, okay, obviously dropped $338,000. We pay tuition based on a 2-year average or three-year average. So if we had 125 students in the program last year, and this year we have 100 students in the program, our commitment now drops, over a 3-year period. It's going to drop down. And so those numbers is what probably generates that revenue. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. The savings in expenditure, yes.
And it's about $16,000 per CT
per student. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we kind of implemented a program in place this year that, if you have X number of absences before the first payment in October, and the students looks like they're going on a path where they're not going to be successful, we're bringing them back to our school, and that's where some of that savings is as well.
Correct. There's that lock-in date in October, like you
Lock-in
mentioned,
date, yeah.
and however many students are in the program at that point in time, that's the number that will factor into the
After that
3-year
date.
average.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So if
BOCES
a student
has
has
been-
excessive absence up to that date, and they're not taking the program serious, we're pulling them back. I think a lot of districts across Long Island are doing that.
And in addition to that, we are not allowing them in if they have excessive absences and behavioral issues prior to going.
Thank you.
So this is timely. This is just a snapshot of, since we were covering Department of Music is part of the curriculum codes, like Mr. Jacklich that was here earlier. This is just shows all of our students and the competitions and the all county, the Niskame, the Scamia, and all the things that the ensembles that they have participated in, which you can see we have quite a participation. And that picture at the bottom is the elementary music festival, which was adorable. So just to highlight that. So recapping all of the codes that we've gone through so far, if we have the salaries, we had the non-instructional codes, and now we have the curriculum and instruction, which does not include our special education codes that we will go over next Tuesday at the board meeting. We've covered $361.5 million of our budget so far. The final budget we're still working on. Like I said, we will cover student activities, which is our athletics, phys ed, and we will cover our student services next week. But right now we are at $387.9 million, and that is approximately $1.2 million less than we were at the prior presentation. And that's a result of, the BOCES commitments, having the actual rates now. And Mr. Sachs and I sat in my office and went through a line-by-line 170-page budget to look at, current commitments, where we are in the current school year, and then a 2-year look back of what our actual expenditures were. And we were able to make reductions that way. So that's where we got down to the $387.9 million. So looking at our total $387.9 million by object code, these are our major expenditure groupings. And just if you look at the column all the way on the right that says the percentage of budget, again, that is where we have where we talked about the anatomy of a dollar, where if you wanted to see where the money goes in Sachem, 47.35% or 47 cents of every dollar goes towards our salaries, 26 cents goes towards our employee benefits, and so on. And if you factor that out for $387.9 million, that gives you an idea of where we are. The next slide will just give you a graphic representation where you could see the salary and benefits. That's
And Michelle, just a simple math, that's about 73% of our budget right there.
73.44% of our budget right there. Yep. So next slide. So when we recap the expenditures with our revenues, which we talked about back in January, if we look at revenues without any fund balance or reserves, we have $374.5 million in revenues for the 26-27 school year. And we have $387.9 million in expenditures. So that leaves us with a $13.4 million budget gap as of right now. Go to the next slide, Allie. We talked about fund balance the last time. We are projecting, and I know we attach monthly the letter from Mr. Sachs where he does the analysis of fund balance and where we think we're going to end the school year. And we look like we're going to end the 25-26 school year with a surplus of approximately $17.7 million. We did appropriate, between appropriated fund balance and reserves, $13.6 million. So that means we expected to run at a deficit, but now looking as we're getting further along in the year, we expect that we'll have $17.7 million. So we are going to be able to take all of that so-called savings that we use to help balance the budget for the year that we're in. We're able to put all of that back. But in addition to that, we're able to we're projecting $1.9 million back into our unassigned fund balance. The last few years, we didn't have that to put back into unassigned, which is why our unassigned fund balance dropped to 3.33%. You're allowed to have 4% of your next year's budget in unassigned fund balance. So we were at 3.3. This will bring us up to 3.77. So we are moving in the right direction.
Michelle, can you just pause on that for a second? Because you said some important stuff there. Can you just go into the 17.7 a little bit? Right. I think we underspent the budget, which is good, right?
We underspent
But then
the
we've
budget.
got unanticipated revenues. Can you just kind of, for the community, share?
So
Well, that's
some
good.
of those unanticipated revenues were we sold Union Avenue, so that was $1.6 million. We had a settlement from the East Roof litigation, so that was $750,000. Our refund from BOCES for our prior year expenditures, which are not supposed to budget, we budgeted a small amount. We budgeted $750,000. That came in at $2.8 million. So that was $2.1 million in unanticipated revenues. We had $3.7 million in state aid because when we prepared our budget last year, we didn't have a state adopted budget. So we had to go off of the governor's proposal, and that changed by the time we got to the actual adopted budget. So those are some of the things that go into that unanticipated revenue that is allowing us to put money back into our unassigned fund balance and also cover the full amount of funds we appropriated.
Great, thank you.
So technically, we only underspent by about 10 million. We didn't because I know there's people out there and they're here
8.2.
surplus.
8.2 million.
Okay, I'm not a man.
That's right on there.
And first of all, thank you for line by line 170 pages. I don't even read a 170-page book, so thank you very much for doing that. But there are people out there that are always saying surplus, surplus. You're overtaxing your, you owe every taxpayer $2,000. It wasn't 17 million that you underspent because we had these one-time, one-off things.
Correct. So the $8 million is less than 3% of our budget. So we budgeted within a 97% accuracy. So you have to leave, a budget is an estimate, just like your household budget is an estimate. You have to leave some room for expenses that are going to come in over, some are going to come in under. You're hoping that's a wash and that when you get to the end, you have 2 or 3% left over where you think, okay, we're better off than we were, where we thought we were going to be at the start of the year.
So said it other way, you're budgeting to almost a 98% accuracy rate.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
Which is phenomenal.
Okay. So next slide.
Good stuff.
So this is fantastic news and a lot of work on everybody here. I would assume that this should be celebrated rather than critiqued too, because last year we were all ready to cry up here with things that were going on, things we were going to lose, possibly having to close schools, which thank God we didn't have to do. So this is worth a celebration. So everybody should come to the gala.
Good segue, Steph. Look at you plugging away.
So going back to that summary slide, if the board were to want to appropriate the $13.4 million from the fund balance, again, for the 26-27 school year, that's a reduction from the current year of almost $200,000, and that would close the budget gap. And again, we have another presentation next week, so Mr. Sachs and I are going to be buddies again for the next couple of days, looking at the codes in our student activities and student services to see if there's anything else we can do there. But we would be we've closed that budget gap with keeping everything that we currently have.
Yes, they do deserve a round of applause. We're going to get those students to make you 2 coffee.
So our next steps are the meeting next week, which will do student activities and support services, and then is the budget adoption on the 21st and the budget hearing on the 6th of May, and then the budget vote on the 19th.
So just for the board, right? We've got 2 more meetings and then we have to adopt the budget, right? One more
more
meeting
after
and then on the
tonight, and then we
21st of
adopt.
April, we have to adopt.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions for Michelle?
Just question. As far as restorations, and things that were lost in the past, at what point are we going to discuss that as a board?
That would be a board discussion. Right now, we're still asking to allocate 13.4. So we're still not even. We're not flush with money. So I think that's where sometimes we get into the hole we've gotten into in the past that we're trying to put back before we're flat. So for us, we'd still like to stay where we are at. We are comfortable with what we're offering. But, Mr. Larson's going through staffing right now and looking where we've budgeted teachers. If we can absorb those teachers, we're not looking to absorb them. We're now looking, since they're already budgeted, to now look at class sizes and try to work on class sizes coming down first before we start looking at the student activities.
Yeah, we're still not out of it. This is helping, right? The things that we've done over the past couple of years, some systematic changes are getting us to where we need to be, right? So thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Anything else, Mrs. Trombetta?
One more, because we're going to go into me in a second. Dan is not here. He has his first lacrosse dinner, but we were fortunate enough today to do the ribbon cutting at the North softball field today. And if you haven't had a chance to take a look at the fields that we just put in for softball at North and East, they're amazing. Tomorrow we are doing the East ribbon cutting, and Mia will go into that. But not only did we have a wonderful day for the ribbon cutting at North blew them out of the water, Lindenhurst, but it was amazing. We've had a couple home runs today, so it was a nice afternoon to celebrate our girls.
Thank you, Mrs. Trombetta. So let's segue right over to our student reports. So Mia.
Okay, so starting off obviously with the ribbon cutting tomorrow at 4:00 on the softball fields. And I also wanted to highlight one of our softball players, Ziamara Lorena. She was in the top 100 on Long Island, and she also talked time. She played on the Peruvian team this actually in October, early October. She's one of my close friends, so it's really nice to see. She told me all about the time there. It's really cool to see the experience she had. And then I also, for a few other sports, girls lacrosse has their second game Friday night against Copaig. And girls flag football is doing really good right now. They had their first game later last week, and they won 19-6. It was against Elwood John Glenn, and they have another game later this week. So, and it's actually a home game against North Babylon. And then more student government side, we have our March Madness event on actually a week from today, Wednesday, sorry. And all of last week we had our basketball and dodgeball tournaments where we decided our final four. And for dodgeball, since we only had 6 teams this year, we're letting all 6 of them come to March Madness, and they're going to duel it out. And we're having our faculty versus students basketball game and our faculty versus students dodgeball game this year. So we're very excited about that. And we're partnering with League of Yes as our nonprofit that we're supporting this year. So we're having Jersey Day as our Spirit Week on March Madness to support them. And for the rest of the week, we're starting off tomorrow super strong with Throwback Thursday. And Friday we're doing Sachem. Monday we're doing Country vs. Country Club. And then in collaboration with Renaissance, we're doing Green Day for their St. Baldrick's event. And Tuesday we're doing a White Lies Day. And Wednesday, jerseys. And then also this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I'm pretty sure is the Bye Bye Birdie play for drama starting at 7 p.m. on Friday. And one more thing, ALS, we've been raising money for ALS starting 2 months ago, and we're already up at $2,500. So hopefully we'll meet our goal of $7,000 by May.
North has their play this weekend as well. They're doing SpongeBob, and then Saturday is our community event at Samoset from 12 to 3.
Thank you, Mia. Anybody have questions for Mia? Oh, great job. Thanks, Mia. Okay. Takes us to approval of minutes from the last meeting. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Dennis, second by Mike. Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Allison, any visitors? Okay. Section 3, business items, consent agenda A through G. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Stephanie, second by Sabrina. Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Section 4, personnel, consent agenda A through Q. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Stephanie, second by Jess. Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Stacy?
Thanks so much. This evening, I have the pleasure of recognizing 2 outstanding educators, one who's beginning her journey with us tonight, back there, as a probationary teacher here in the district, and one who's demonstrated years of dedication and excellence to earn tenure. It's right over here. So it's my pleasure to introduce and congratulate our newest probationary teacher, Gabriella Asperu. Welcome to the Sachem family, Gabby. And also, we're proud to recognize one of our PE teachers who is earning tenure this evening. Congratulations to Emma Scanoni on this well-deserved achievement. Emma, thank you for all of your hard work and dedication to the Sachem family. We're so proud of you.
Gabby, Miguel, with your dad come up, and Emma. We have Rob, Maureen, Melissa, Jackie, Jimmy, and your beautiful daughter who can't wait to take her picture.
Okay. Takes us to section 5, personnel. Support staff, consent agenda A through I. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Meredith, second by Stephanie. Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Section 6, field trips. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Mike, second by Rob. Questions, comments? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Section 7, contracts, consent agenda A through H. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Mike, second by Stephanie. Questions, comments? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Section 8, budget adjustment, consent agenda A through H. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Rob, second by Stephanie. Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Section 9, budget transfer. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Sabrina, second by Stephanie. Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Section 10, donations, consent agenda A through C. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Meredith, second by Stephanie. Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Section 11, Committee on Special Education, consent agenda A through B. Can I have a motion by Stephanie, second by Jess? All in favor? Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. We're moving too fast. Okay. Takes us to section 12, our monthly reports. I know, does anybody have anything before we bring the legislative committee up? Because I know that's a big update tonight. Mike?
And I might have mentioned the last meeting, the audit committee does have a meeting on Monday, the 30th at 7 o'clock. The policy committee is looking at some policies that Marianne provided, commenting. When they're ready, we'll put them up for first reading.
Okay, great. Thank you. Great. So Steph or Meredith, I'll turn it over to you guys if you want to set up the update from the legislative committee.
Yes, we went to Albany. It was amazing, and they're going to tell you about it.
So with that, let's bring up the legislative committee. I think just on behalf of the board, I want to thank you guys. This has been probably the most active legislative committee I've seen since I'm on the board. And I continue to follow it. You guys are doing a fantastic job. So we're looking forward to the update. Sounds like it was a very productive day in Albany. So Paul, are you going to kick it off? And then, yep. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. How's that? All right. Hi, I'm Paul Sapienza. I'm going to give a report on, what about the lobby day, but I'd like to talk a little bit about the committee and what led up to us going up there. I want to thank the entire board for giving us the opportunity to serve. We recognize that we are not an independent organization, that we are an arm of the board, and we speak on your behalf based on the charges you give us to work on. So we hope we did a good job this year, and we have a lot to report, good news to report to you. First, I'd also like to acknowledge the professionalism and dedication of the committee. We meet, pretty often, and I must say, going up to Albany, I was very impressed with everyone's performance as we met with the legislators. It's not easy sometimes when you're put on the spot and you realize there's something that has to be added and you insert yourself at the exact moment and you have the knowledge base to do that. So, we're not just talking in the wind, we're actually advocating for everything we're talking about. As far as the committee's philosophy, we took a very bipartisan approach. But one of the things we did was we branched out from being consumed with our immediate local legislators. We wanted to branch out beyond that. And when we branched out beyond that, what we were targeting was committee members and committee chairs of the committees that would handle the legislation that we're going to want to lobby on. And that we felt that was very important. And, the reality out there, the situation is that if you have a majority in control, sometimes you have to target them because they're the ones that have to carry the water to get it to the floor for a vote. The initial charge you gave us had to do with pre-K funding. And we hit the ground running. We identified some legislation that we thought we might be able to get some legislators to amend in order to allow the board to use some funds that were allocated to you but were not accessible. because they were only specified for certain things like tuition. You couldn't use them to renovate your areas and so forth. We actually wrote some legislation and was advocating for that. As part of that advocation, we reached out. We spoke to committee chairs. We spoke to the liaison from the governor's office for Suffolk County. We've been talking about this on a regular basis with all of these legislators and so forth. We have concepts, we have ideas, we'd like you to hear it. And lo and behold, we get the great news that the governor decided to increase funding. I'm not going to say we're taking credit for that, but we did talk about it a lot, and I hope it got some people's attention. So from that perspective, someone else will speak a little bit more about that issue. Now, as far as you could have changed that. I'm sorry, Allison, I apologize. Some of the items that we spoke about, obviously, were the pre-K funding, the TAN borrowing issues. I'm not going to go into detail. You know what all these items are. State aid formulas, the AIS aid. As a matter of fact, we brought a package with us to Albany. We only had one copy left, so if you don't mind, I'm just going to pass it around. You can peruse it, but if we need to, we'll obviously get you it on a file. Okay. School security guard. That's something that's been worked on for quite a few years. Charter schools is a new issue, and e-bus extensions. Okay. As far as the lobby day itself, we were well organized. We had members of the committee that made sure that there were appointments established. And as I spoke before, everybody was very professional in speaking. We weren't, giving them platitudes or whatever, or blowing smoke, if you get my drift. We were speaking about the subject at hand, and we were driving it home. And the primary goal of the committee was not just to talk about issues, it was to obtain commitments from people to be sponsors of legislation, to see that legislation that is already out there they support, and that we got commitments from people that others will speak about, which I think is very impressive, to move forward the agenda of this board as it relates to the charges you gave us to deal with. So there are other people that are speaking about that. As far as one of the other things that I think was very valuable in this visit, we actually planted a few seeds. Now, any of you that are familiar with legislative work, it doesn't happen overnight. I think Jim will speak about that when he speaks on the security bill. Sometimes it takes multi-sessions to make progress. The seeds that we planted were twofold. There were two items that we talked about, and we were getting kind of an interesting reception. People say, well, that makes a lot of sense. Let's think about that. One of them was the state funding formula. We talked about not an average, but a mean. Eliminating, say, the bottom 5%, the top 5%. Why should we be skewed by having small pockets of very wealthy citizens skewing our formula at our detriment? Okay, so there was some interest in that. The other thing, the other seed we planted was as far as the extension of the buses. We mentioned that, for example, if you look in the marketplace, if you look at the company Stellantis, who is basically Dodge, Chrysler, Ram, whatever, they had a program to come out with the Ram electric truck 2 years ago, and it was supposed to be already on the market. It got delayed. Not only was it delayed, it has now been scrapped. The model that was coming after it was going to be the hybrid model. And the reason for it is it had extended range. It was more dependable. If you had emergencies, such as in the school situation where the buses are over getting charged and we don't have a full enough charge to get the kids home, if there's an emergency, maybe they might want to consider something like a hybrid vehicle that could, have a much longer distance. So we were trying to plant those seeds, is that even in the marketplace, it's recognized that while the technology is there, it may be premature. So not only do you need to delay it, but you might want to consider alternatives that A, might be cheaper, and B, may be more doable with better results. And if people start considering those options, well, it seems to me like a delay would be a natural thing to do. So those are some of the seeds that we were planting. So as far as concluding my remarks, I would just like to say I think this was a good beginning. As I said earlier, I don't think everything that you try to accomplish legislatively can be done in one session. Sometimes it has to be introduced and built upon. Uh, you know, we had, we had a number of legislators generally supportive of our agenda, generally interested in potentially sponsoring legislation, thinking about that legislation going forward in the future. Because as the budget process is winding down, you know, you're not going to have new things coming in. And one of the things we see as requiring multi sessions is the state aid formula. Because when you do that, if you change the formula, what's going to happen is one of two things can happen. Either some areas are going to increase at the detriment of others, okay, because it's going to even out, or you have to take an approach where as much as some areas may benefit, you have to hold the other areas harmless. That means you need increased funding. That has to go through the budget process, and that's not an easy thing to do. So, as I said, we've made a good start on some things. We're coming to a conclusion on others. And I think you'll all be satisfied with the progress that some of my other fellow members are going to talk about.
Paul, thank you very much. Any
You're
questions for Paul before we go to? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul.
All right. And I'd like to turn it over to Jim Kiernan, who's going to speak about the security guard.
Great. Welcome back, Jim.
Well, here I am again.
Yep. Welcome back.
You know, just to follow what he said also. I've been doing volunteer work for Sachem for almost 40 years, and I have never worked on a committee like this. The dedication and energy that this group has and the knowledge is unbelievable. And that's really to your credit, because not only did you select this committee, but also you've given this committee the freedom to work and get this job done. So I applaud you guys as well as them.
Thank you, Jim.
Now, I don't have to say or sell the security guard bill. You guys are well aware what that is. We've been dealing with this for years. Everybody's on board with it. But for years, we get stuck in the assembly. All right? It's passed the Senate 3 times without any problem, overwhelmingly. So we never had an issue with that. We have an issue. In fact, the last time was February 9th of this year. It passed 49-11. So, I mean, it doesn't have any problem there. Our problem in the assembly is, if you remember, we had Assemblywoman Kim Jean-Pierre, who had the assembly version of the bill. She didn't do anything with it. It sat in committee, went nowhere. She then decided not to run again. Now the bill was out there. Nobody had it. So then this committee, we had to now start struggling to find somebody to take the bill, which we did. It was by Assemblyman Quaney O'Farrell, who not only picked up the bill, but he got 11 sponsors. Can you just move that along a little bit? Yeah, see where I said 10? I was wrong. He got 11 bipartisan sponsors to the bill. That is huge. Now, in the assembly, that bill now sits in the Economic Development Committee, who, if you're aware of how that works, the committee, they debate it, and then they even move it on to a different committee, usually an appropriations committee if it has money attached. But we've been hollering from the beginning, there is no money attached to this bill. There is no cost to this bill. So making sure that all these legislators that we spoke to understood there's no cost. So we would like to get it out of committee right to the floor for a vote, so it doesn't go bounce around committees all the time. So that was our goal when we went up to Albany. My team of George Iannacone and myself and Matthew Walker, the 3 of us, that this was our piece of the board's charge. There are 25 members of the Economic Development Committee, chaired by Assemblyman Al Sturpey. Can you move that slide, please? Okay. Now, these are the people, and I put these names up there. We saw a lot more people, but as far as the security guard bill goes, these are the individuals that had the most to say, or the most benefit for us to lobby to get this passed, and I'll show you how. Of course, the first three, that's the governor's staff. And the reason I wanted to speak to the governor's staff is because you have many bills that get out of the Senate, get out of the Assembly, go in front of the governor, and she doesn't know what it is, and she don't sign it. And then it dies. So we want to make sure that didn't happen. So making sure that the governor's staff knows that this bill exists, knows that it'll be moving to her desk eventually, and here's what it says. So we were able to explain the bill, explain the no cost end of it. So that was a major meeting that we had with them, and they were all on board. In fact, everybody I talked to on this list, you will always get the same thing. Wow, that's a no-brainer. Wow, I can't believe it. It's taken this long, but it is. We met with Assemblywoman Rebecca Cassay, and the reason she's important is because she's a member of the Economic Development Committee. And she said to us that she wants to put herself down as a co-sponsor. She actually wants to co-sponsor the bill as well to become number 12. And there's nothing like having somebody co-sponsoring sitting in the committee that it has to get out of. So she was very, very important for us. Assemblyman Michael Fitzpatrick, some members behind me may query why I put him down because he was a little tough. He is a very, very, very fiscal conservative assemblyman. But when I spoke briefly about the security guard bill and put a no cost tag on it, he was all for it. And as far as I'm concerned, having a very fiscal conservative assemblyman on the floor that could speak up for the bill, that's a real win. Senator Stephen Rhodes, and the reason I put him there, it's interesting, because he had voted no in the Senate the first time, and it was very confusing, and our own Meredith Volpe knows him. And she questioned of why he voted no. He said it was because of a cost. She straightened him out, and he voted yes. So I want to thank Meredith for getting his support and his vote. Senator Dean Murray, he didn't vote the last time, but he voted yes this time. We met him also in the hallway and thanked him for his vote and his support. He is very supportive of the security guard bill. And the reason that's, even though it's passed the Senate, they all talk. And it's good to have as many voices up there talking the bill up. And finally, the most important that we did was Assemblyman Al Sturpey, who happened to be in session. So we went down to the assembly floor, and Paul, being a very knowledgeable man on how to do this, we were able to get the assemblyman out of his seat and meet us in the lobby, hence lobbying, as Paul reminded me. And we met. I started talking about the bill. He had no clue. He never heard of it. And this is the chair of the committee where it is. Now that was, oh, no, that can't be. But he read the bill because it's only 2 pages. It's an easy bill to read. He read it as we sat there and said, oh, this is good. This is great. Let me get it on my agenda. And that's like, oh, my heart was pounding. Wow, the chairman is going to put it on the next agenda, which will be the 3rd week of April. It'll be on the assembly agenda. Now we're going to meet with Assemblyman O'Farrell again next week. And the reason for that is because we want to offer the Assemblyman O'Farrell any kind of lobbying that we could do to any of the members of this Economic Development Committee. You know, I'll even go there and testify to them if that's necessary. Hopefully none of it's necessary. Hopefully it's just, no, it's going to pass right through. But we want to do anything we can to get that bill out of the assembly and onto the floor for a vote. We're very confident, at least with all the lobbying we did, very confident that this would pass. You know, it's always the same, with no cost. That's all they were, especially now that they're doing a budget and all, which again, I'll go back to the governor's staff. You put a cost tag on that and the governor's staff is going to have a heart attack. So knowing that there's no cost to that staff. Any questions on this?
Any questions for Mr. Kiernan?
I have one.
Go ahead.
I just want to reiterate how you guys were running around up and down flights in these buildings like professionals. Like seriously ran, we're going to pull this guy off the floor. I'm like, I don't even know what that means, but go ahead. And it was pretty cool. And then they came up and they were like, we bumped into this one in the hallway. Me and Meredith are bumping into Senator Rhodes. Yeah. I mean, there was so much action the whole day, and we were just spinning. And no running. No, there were children everywhere advocating. It was pretty cool. But to watch everybody just do what we had to do when we've never done it before was incredible, you guys.
I can't believe this is only one day that you guys went with how much you accomplished. That's remarkable. Wow.
But wait, there's more.
Yep.
Awesome.
All right.
Yeah, I'm just quickly going to bring up George Iannacone. He's been on this bill with me for years. So.
Yep.
Yeah, we've been doing this for years, and we've been trying like the local way, and we get a lot of support, and then it kind of like stalls. And this year with this committee, it was like really good because we have like Paul's a season. You know, he knows Albany inside and out. We have other members that know Albany inside and out, which is great because I know where it is, but you know, been there, but it's a whole different animal. And so it's been blessed with that. So we're trying to get some support with this, and with some of the other things. And some of the other things I just wanted to say, it's like this committee. It's like, you know, it's like we did all this in a day. Yeah, but there was probably like, I don't know, maybe about 40 hours of Zoom meetings. This okay, plus the live meetings. Just this year alone. Okay, so we're putting the time in. Okay, you know, I really appreciate that the administration helped us get some numbers on some things gotten going and coming up with different ways to do formulas. You know, I'd like to say, I have another member here who doesn't sleep at night. Okay, he sends emails out 2:00 in the morning. Okay, sending out on this committee, and I'm awake looking at them. So at this time, but it's a tremendous time, and it's not done. It's like they had a great day. Unfortunately, I couldn't go up. I'm still kind of like recovering from a surgery I had at the end of February. I wasn't up to it. But there's going to be more trips up, you know, in April, and as this year goes on. So we're going to be, and still work the phone and, you know, press the payment down here. So just really appreciate the opportunity. And it's like some things like take forever with this, you know, to get done, you know. So we're hopeful that we'll get the security guard built. So,
yep. Thank you. We appreciate what you guys have done, and we realize it may have been one day, but all the hours leading up to that day, tremendous amount of prep work. So thank you.
Brian Lee, be up next and talk about the AIS.
Okay, great. Mike, did you have a question?
Yeah, Jim, I just wanted to say, I mean, this has been a long road. And one of the things that always frustrated me was the misunderstanding about how they would attain this certification. I don't think people ever realized that this would be something the applicant themselves who were applying for a license would pay for if they wanted it, which is why it's no cost. That was a very frustrating thing, which hopefully now you've overcome that.
Yeah, we have, and you're right. The way to put it, at least I think I found out, is to just make sure they understand the current 8-hour annual training requirement that the security guards have now to keep their license, just has a change in curriculum. If they're in a school, they take this curriculum instead of that curriculum. So that's all. There's no additional cost to the guard, no additional training to the guard, other than a change in training. So. Brian?
Hello.
Hi, Brian. Welcome.
So as most of you know already, I'm not a professional lobbyist. I'm an accountant. That's my first full-time job. Second full-time job is Linwood's PTA treasurer, and third full-time job is on this committee. So I'm just really proud of this whole group of people. I mean, the amount of progress we made, government's really slow, as everybody knows, but the amount of progress we've already made on a lot of issues is incredible. So before I talk about Albany, just going back a few steps. So in the beginning of September, Michelle did a presentation on all the unfunded mandates. And the one that stuck out to me the most was academic intervention services. So I was like, how is something so important not funded by the state? So to come up with a solution, we researched, there was no bills that addressed this issue. So we had to kind of start from scratch here. So we made our own bill titled the Help Every Student Succeed Act, which out of all the unfunded mandates, we believe this one is probably the least controversial. So there's other things like charter schools where, you know, we all believe, you know, on the issues goes one way, but there's an opposing party that wants it the other way. So that's controversial. This one, there's no other side saying, no, I don't want to help students. I don't want to help kids reach their full potential. So there's no natural opposition to a bill like this other than cost, obviously. But let's see. So just a history on it. So we had to make the bill from scratch, and then we were seeking out sponsors on it. So we've talked to, I don't even know how many legislators this year so far, probably at least a dozen. The person who gave us the most guidance was our local rep, Rebecca Cassay, who's been amazing. Actually, a few minutes before this meeting, she actually sent us an email, so I'm just going to read it to you guys. Dear Brian and Team Sachem, thank you for your warm visit. It is always a pleasure to see you both on Long Island and in Albany. I'm so glad to hear that A.M. Conrad was a good recommendation, which I'll talk about that in a minute. He works hard and is very knowledgeable about this subject. I will support his efforts and continue to be a voice for Sachem and our district in advocating for this important change. So just a shout out to Rebecca Cassay, who's been amazing. And we really appreciate all of her efforts. So she recommended an assemblyman named Bill Conrad to be the primary sponsor on this bill. If we couldn't find one on her own, she was also offering to carry it herself, but she does not have a background in education. So she was recommending somebody on the special education task force on the assembly to carry the bill for us who could, make it progress further. So she didn't, take it. She recommended somebody else to sponsor it for us. So Assemblyman Bill Conrad, he's known as a leader in early intervention. He's got other early intervention bills where he's trying to increase funding for early intervention by 11% for ages 0 to 3. So he's a great person to help us carry this bill forward in the future. So the next steps for the bill is it needs to go through the Legislative Drafting Commission to finalize the actual bill language. It's going to then have an official bill number, and then from there we'll get additional co-sponsors on it, which we've already received a lot of interest on it from legislators like Rebecca Cassay and others. So the momentum's already there, where we've got a lot of legislators on board who have signaled support for it. And then we will also build, a coalition of the PTA, superintendents, teacher unions. So we'll build a machine to keep pushing this bill forward. It's not going to happen, this year because of the budget's almost, they're not going to pass it on time by April 1st, obviously, but it's pretty much there. So this is like a 2 to 3 year advocacy effort. But yeah, we're going to keep chugging along with it. We've already made a lot of progress in a short time. Also want to give a shout out to Michelle for giving us all the AIS data that we needed. So we asked her to go back 10 years to give us AIS data. And, she didn't flinch. She sent it to us in a nice spreadsheet, all organized. So I appreciate that. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions from the board? Oh, Brian, I just want to say thank you for this one, because this is a perfect example of something that we thought of. And about a year or so ago, we started digging into these unfunded mandates, right? And that's why we asked Michelle, and she did a fantastic job really documenting these. So I think you picked a good one here. Like you said, not controversial, right? That hopefully we can drive forward.
Yep.
So yeah, great job. Steph?
I need to interject. During this process, we were told this was not going to go anywhere by certain people we met with. And it wasn't even really elected officials. So it was a punch in the gut a little bit. We were all like, whoa. And it wasn't until we went to lobby day and every single elected official, if you go back, every single one was agreeing that this needs to be done.
Yeah.
And it brought us all to life, right? We were like, this is great. And then for Assemblywoman Cassay to bring on other people to help, it was just, it gave it momentum, but it also showed the value, because we really thought it was something that was going to just get squashed, and it's really taken on its own
So
life.
we made this packet. We dropped off this packets for 15, 20 legislators. So just to plant the seeds, get this, even though we don't have an official bill number yet, just to get the idea in their minds that this is coming along the pipeline. So hopefully we could, once we have the official bill, we'll get them on board as co-sponsors and keep this bill moving.
Great, thank you. Mike, did you have something?
I did. I just want to, how shocked I was to hear a CPA like an Excel spreadsheet, right? But could you just touch a little bit about what your proposed bill says about reimbursement? Is it a percentage? Is it an amount? Is it?
Yeah, so it's the way the bill is written, and it may change once the lawyers get their hands on it. But the way that I wrote it, the intent is that it won't redirect funding from other areas. So it's not supposed to pull money from foundation aid into this category. It's supposed to be a standalone category that the intent is to give school districts a minimum of 50% reimbursement on all AIS spent. It's of course subject to appropriation though, so it depends how much the legislative body So Assembly, Senate, and Governor want to actually fund it every year. So it's up to them. Do they want to put 200 million into it, 500 million? It's kind of up to the legislator how much it gets funded. But it could start small, and they could see how successful it is, because really this bill is actually going to save the state hundreds of millions of dollars, because academic intervention services are so important that if you help these kids early, it's going to they're not going to be stuck in this long-term special ed classification. So it's actually an investment that's going to save the state hundreds of millions. So it's a no-brainer.
Yep. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
Anything else?
Any more speakers?
Yes. So next up, we got Jenna to talk about the pre-K.
Okay, great.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jenna Coletti. Thank you so much for giving us time tonight to talk about our awesome Albany trip. Like the speakers before me said, we had a plan initially going in where we were trying to find flexibility with the money that was already allocated to us to be able to expand to offer a spot to more children. And in the middle of the process, there was the announcement from the governor for a proposal for $10,000 per student, which would be huge for us. If we were to get $10,000 per student here in Sachem, we would be able to offer a pre-K spot to every eligible student in our district. So that's huge. So when we went into all of our meetings talking with our representatives, we were bringing up the proposed legislation, or the proposal from the governor, rather, and the importance of keeping it in the budget. Because currently it's in her budget proposal, but it's not finalized yet. So we made it a point to basically express how important early intervention is, the need for a high quality pre-K program for all eligible students. We've had many conversations about it as a team, with the way the world is working now, kindergarten is the new first grade is the new second grade. It's really important for children to have a quality pre-K program so they can learn those early academic skills to be successful in kindergarten. So it was really huge. All the legislators, they agreed with our point. We really tried to nail it home. I think a big thing was when we met with the governor's team, we were initially allocated only 15 minutes, and they actually gave us 47 minutes. So we had 47 minutes to speak about all of our proposals and all of our priorities, and it was just a really successful trip. So we're hoping that the proposal for UPK funding expansion will stay in the budget and we'll make it through this year. I know it's something that everyone's been lobbying for a few years, and it seems like everyone's pretty confident that this might be the year that we make it happen.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions from the board? Mike?
I just want to say to Paul and the rest of the team, I've been on the school board now, like going on 11 years. Rob's probably got more time than me. This team that you have now is probably the most horsepower I've ever seen in this legislative committee. So congratulations on that. The dynamic is obviously working. And of course, Stephanie and Meredith, thank you for being our reps.
Got Meredith and then Steph and then Rob.
So I just wanted to say a few things. This committee, like everybody has said, is amazing. I've never witnessed anything like it. We really have every different background you can think of. We're completely bipartisan. We have people from left, right, and center, and we all work incredibly well together. You guys are what's right in this world, and you guys are what we need more of. We have an accountant that's here on March 25th because he's so passionate about this. March 25th. Sajada, I don't know how you do everything you do. You must have more than 24 hours in a day. But she had us so organized. Every appointment was made. Everything was perfectly laid out. Stephanie, I don't know how she does what she does. But like you said, they gave us 15 minutes and we stayed in there for 47. I think that speaks volumes for who this team really is, and I appreciate everything. Paul, you're an amazing driver. I was a little nervous in the beginning, but so that brings me to, I would like to somehow propose a few things. I think that Paul should be paid back and Stephanie should be paid back for the gas that they spent. We went up and back in one day, gas, tolls, time, things like that. The other thing is, I have in 52 years never stepped foot in Albany. Wow, it was incredible. And I think that there should be some kind of mandatory curriculum that our children all go up to Albany for one day and see how the sausage is made. Because when I went up there, first of all, the buildings are beyond beautiful. But when I went up and saw how all this was done, I have a big mouth. I love to advocate, but I never knew how to do it. So thank you, Paul, because Paul definitely pushed us all in the right direction and showed us how that's done. I would have just gone up there and just sat and screamed at everybody. But Paul showed us how to professionally get in there and not run in the hallways, but get it all done. I might have strong armed Mr. Rhodes a little bit, but I earned the vowel at the end of my name. But I am always happy to advocate for the children, but I am so proud now that you guys showed us how to do it the right way. And we have a generation that's coming up that they think yelling and screaming and TikTok posts and things are the right way, but we need to show them that this is the right way, because I can tell you right now, it opened my eyes tremendously. And if we showed this to our children, if we brought them up there as part of a curriculum, not an elective, but an actual piece of curriculum, I think that it would be worth every penny, because we would really be bringing these kids and opening their eyes, and they wouldn't end up being older and not understanding how their government works properly.
Steph and then Rob. wrap up.
I just need to brag about everybody here. We got in the car. It's a little bit before 6. We drove for 4 hours together. We got to Albany at 10 o'clock. We were supposed to be done by 3. We had other representatives want to meet with us, so they added on to the end of our day, which I don't think really normally happens, right? Yeah. So Sajada she's a rock star, and she's hiding in the back, and I know she doesn't want to be put on the spot, but she was our timekeeper, told us where to go. We literally, and I can only speak for Meredith and I, we didn't know what we were doing, and we were just like, push us in the direction we're going. And we didn't stop. There was no lunch break. There was nothing. Like, I had to stop for nuts because I was like, I'm getting dizzy. I didn't want to tell them because I was driving them, but I'm like, water and nuts, because it was pretty intense. Also, the electeds and everybody we met with were so impressed by us, because they were, I think people come in with no plan and just to complain. And we came in with plans, and we were asking for help. And we wanted to help them as well. I mean, I didn't know we had 15 minutes with the governor. So I just kept going. We had 7 things on our sheet, which I also found out was a lot. And we just kept going, and they wanted to hear it. And we had, it was high level officials. It wasn't, just meeting with their staff. It was just to say, Maria Fernandez is the Deputy Secretary for Education. Elena Infantani, I'm so bad with pronouncing things, Assistant Secretary for Education. Stephen Martinez, Deputy Director for Long Island Intergovernmental Affairs. What? And then all set up by Talia Olea, our Long Island representative to the governor. So that, in conjunction with Sajada, knowing how to do all of this, Paul with his connections mainly in the city, we saw elected officials that really wanted to help us, and they had legislation that would actually help Sachem and the state as a whole. So this just started something in all of us. Like, we are discussing going back in April, which was something we were going to bring up as well, because we might have to go to the committee and testify and help, get this security bill off the stuck area it's in the assembly. But and one just quick story, and I know, I'm sorry, we went way longer than we were supposed to, but we were in a huddle, and I'm half passing out, but not really, and we're like business looking, and people walk by and they go, "Oh, they're lobbyists," and we were like, "What? No, we're not. I'm a mom from the school district in Sachem, and they're my friends," and we looked professional, and I'm like, and I was telling the committee, I had such imposter syndrome before going up there. I was panicking. I'm like, I don't want to speak. And they're like, you have to speak. And I'm like, I don't really want to speak, because I never did this before. I thought, like, maybe Paul should speak or Sajada should speak. And they're like, no, you outline the packet, you're going to speak. And it was intimidating, but also invigorating. Everybody would jump in when needed be with their expertise. I'm so proud of you guys. It was so awesome. So thank you.
Great,
Really, thank
Thanks,
you.
Steph. Rob?
Yeah, just as Mike said, I've been at this since 2006 is when I first got elected to the board, and we've always had a legislative committee. In fact, that particularly we started additional committees, capital project committee, budget advisory committee, and over the years, I mean, there is we would put together groups of individuals that would want to be on a legislative committee, but only fight for their own personal interest, and at some point, there was even discussion of dismantling the legislative committee because it started to become like the Wild West. And so I got to tell you, I mean, I'm in all the years I've been on the Board of Education, this is by far the best, well put together committee that I've ever seen. You didn't just articulate the concerns of the district, the concerns and the care for our students, but you did it in such a non-political manner. Where I don't think there's any one person on the committee was fighting for their one thing that they wanted for. You took the direction from the board. You went up and you did your homework. You did your research, but you could see you put tremendous amount of hours into planning and organizing and getting your facts together and working with central administration to be prepared to be able to address the individuals. And it's as if you guys have been working together for years. That's what it seems like to me. And I know you haven't, because I know when we go in the back room, we pick members for the committee. We haggle, we go back and forth as to who we think the best people are. And I got to be honest with you, this is probably the one time that we really got it right, So, guys did a great job. I look forward to hearing more from you. What's that? Yeah. And look, any little help that we get in putting the thoughts and information to the heads of our legislators, is a tremendous help, especially coming from Sachem. I mean, I haven't seen the Middle Country Legislative Group. I know they've been together for a long time, but God, I can't imagine that they're better than this group. So, you guys did a great job.
Yeah, let's wrap it up, Steph.
Just really quick, Middle Country, one of their administrators is on our committee, and they went up with their students the week before, and she brought our packet to advocate, so they were getting hit double time. So their committee is more student based, but they had the packet as well. So it was a collaboration.
You really represented Sachem amazingly.
So just one final comment, right? So these issues are not really unique to Sachem, and the fact that you guys expanded outside of our local officials, that's key. So you nailed that, which is fantastic. So thank you. All right, appreciate it. Okay. Any other committee updates? I think we're good for now, right? Okay. Great. Allison, closing comments? Nothing? Okay. Takes us to old business. We don't have any old business to discuss tonight. Board discussion items. I think we can rattle through these pretty quick, right? We've got 4 of them. NYSBA community survey, driver recruitment, and transportation proposition. Let's start with the NYSBA one. And I really like to keep this streamlined. In my mind, this is an up or down vote. We've beat this one to death over the years. I really don't want to get into the pros and cons of why we should join, if that's okay, unless somebody has a really specific opinion on this. But the question at hand is, we've been out of it for a while. The question is, do we join it or not join it? If anybody has any opposing view on how we want to handle this one, I don't want to spend too much time on this. Mike?
What were the costs again? We have
It
those
was in the Friday packet, about $13,000, I think, $14,000.
NYSBA membership is $13,230 annually. NYSBA Poly Services
saw this,
is
okay.
$1,700 annually, and mandated trustee training through NYSBA is $300 per trustee. And then the Nassau Suffolk School Board Association fees are $4,600 annually.
So what's overall, Michelle? We're just shy of 20 grand for the whole thing, right? So the question at hand is, do we want to spend the 20,000 to align ourselves with the associations that could help with the lobbying efforts that we're doing? So if everybody's okay, we take a leaning, or right? Opinions, leanings, however we want to do this, right? It's Mike. We'll start with Mike and we'll go around. Okay, Meredith?
As much as I like advocating, I honestly think it's a lot of money for not a lot of, it's a big squeeze for no juice.
Okay, Dennis? So Meredith, you'd be a no if we took to a vote? And Rob?
Look, I'll tell you the same thing I said last year. We're the only school district, 124 districts in Long Island, or Suffolk County, that is not a member of these organizations. And, they do lobby on behalf of public schools and advocating against charter schools. And when you look at $20,000 in the grand scheme of a $389 million budget, it's not a lot of money. In dire fiscal times, I could see where if I had to make a decision of telling children that they're not going to have a club, but we're going to join, NISBA, that's a different story. But we're not in that situation this year. And we said we were going to take it on a year-by-year basis. I think it's important to be a member. I really do. So
you're a yes?
I would be a yes.
Okay. Stephanie?
I'm a yes, and I think it would be an amazing branch to the legislative committee. Because of the advocacy we could do, it could open more doors. And we did want to have some guidance that NISBA would have provided us we didn't have access to it. So I think I'm a yes.
Okay. Jess?
I'm a no. While I like advocating, we still don't have elementary clubs at all. So I'd like that money to go back to the students. But I do think it's important that Allison or any trustees, we could sort of a la carte trainings and allocate some funds for that.
Sabrina?
I agree with Jessica. I'm a
That's a no. Okay, so we got 3-2. I'm going to go back to Mike.
I'm going to ask a question while Mike's thinking.
Go ahead.
So Mike, I'm besides Jessica, I'm the other newest person here. So in past history, what has it done for us when you joined it? Has it done anything good for us or not? I mean, you guys, I haven't been here, so I can't say.
Yeah, that's a
we
good
spent
question.
20
Dennis.
grand. Did we make anything out of it? Did we get anything out of it?
It's a good question. And, we, again, past couple of years, we've had this discussion, and you can argue whether they did good for us or not good for us. I think the value and benefit really goes back to the advocacy that they're doing up in Albany and the organization they have. Again, as Rob said, we're the only school district, I think, on Long Island and possibly New York State that's not in it.
So
they do a lot of
passed?
advocating with legal issues.
Everyone advocates, but what have
Can I
they
answer
brought
that
to the
question?
table that we got?
Yeah. So there's a tremendous amount of resources that they provide. It's almost like, Ms. Trombetta is a member of the Superintendent Association, right? It's statewide, and they collaborate and they bring ideas back. So just that collaboration with other districts, either in the national conference or the state conference rather, where you go up to these professional developments for Board of Education members, and we're volunteers, and you gather the ideas of what's going on in other schools, and you bring those ideas back. Like I said, the amount of resources, the amount of materials that they provide to school districts that we're not receiving right now. National Suffolk School Board Association produces a comparison of salaries for staff and whatnot, and stuff. There's information that we use to help us budget and prepare for negotiations. I mean, they gather a lot of data that we could use, and it benefits us.
And Rob, let me just jump in. If Allison, I know you leverage the service as well, so I don't know if there's any comments you can add, right, to that.
They are a good resource for me when it comes to reaching out to other districts, getting policy information, guidance through them on new legislation that we need to follow. But again, they do have their services available, their trainings available, I should say, whether you're a member or not. It's just an increased cost if you're a non-member. But the online services and access to that is not available unless you are a member.
I don't know, Dennis, if that helps you or.
Just one comment I just want to Jessica's point.
Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry,
I
I'm
don't.
sorry.
We got to. Yeah, we want to keep going with the roll call. But go ahead, Rob. Yeah, if you answer Dennis's question, yeah.
Yeah, just and I'm hearing what's going on here. And to Jessica's point, I agree with you 100%. And I think we're going to be talking about clubs and things for kids moving up. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's why I brought up the term, before restorations. We need to restore clubs to elementary schools. So that's something I'm going to propose. I may as well give you a tip off as to what's going to happen at the next meeting. I am going to propose a certain amount of money so we can restore some clubs. So I understand I don't want to leverage one against the other, but we can do it. We can definitely do it, and it's something I'm going to propose.
Vinny, I have an
Go
answer
ahead,
to
yeah.
his question.
Go ahead, Steph.
So when we were advocating years ago for the school security guard, legislation. That's where we found out that other school districts were under the wrong impression from upstate New York, from other areas further away from here, that they thought it was going to be a cost to their district. Rob and I believe Sabrina were on hours-long advocacy meetings, insanity right after COVID, pushing through all our resolutions. We used to be part of their resolution process, where we're heard as one of the biggest school districts with multiple things of education initiatives that we could recommend to NYSBA to lobby on our behalf, that we don't have a voice anymore. So one of the things that happened because of being a part of NYSBA is if we went to convention, we were able to meet with other school districts and talk to them face to face. Laura and I spoke face to face about graduation requirements, the school security bill. We were able to meet with other school districts and explain to them, and got NYSBA to turn around their opinion on supporting legislation that Sachem's created, because we were able to communicate with the other people involved. We don't have that outlet anymore. So all this advocacy we're doing is just going to be heard from Sachem to legislator, but it's not going to be broadcast to the other school districts like it would be if we were part of NYSBA. And that has happened in the past. What were the smart school bonds? That was a huge NYSBA resolution.
Yeah, so Dennis, it comes down
Right.
to this, some soft benefits. It's nothing, you're asking for some concrete.
I'd be leaning no right now still, because I think we did again, I wasn't on the board, but you guys were ready to close schools down. You guys took sports away, took things away when you were part of it. And we haven't been part of it for a year. And I think we're doing just fine right now. And I haven't seen, I just asked some questions and I haven't heard of, besides, I understand the lobbying and people putting things forward, I haven't heard anything that passed or anything that we've gotten back. And we have a legislative team that I feel like
I
all
could
that
share
work. And
that.
if we-
If I was prepared to answer that question, I can share that with you.
So Dennis has the
We
floor,
have
and let's
that.
just get Dennis's.
Let me finish.
Let
Let me
Dennis
finish. Let me finish. Let me finish, please. If they come up with something great, our legislative team, I would imagine that other school districts would still take it if it's something worth taking, and still fighting for that for their own schools.
Okay. So Dennis, I'll put you down for a no. Mike, let me go back to you.
Michelle, do you have the money already allocated in the budget you presented to us? The line is not zero. The line has got money in it.
It has the required new board member trainings and I believe the policy that we subscribe to.
So right
But
now,
that's a reduced number. That's the minimal number for trainers.
Correct,
It's not
correct.
that's
It's
not the 20,000.
No.
so you'd have to increase the budget by that number. Can we table this till next meeting?
I for what? I got four to
Well, she's
two.
going to come out if we.
I got
voted-
4-2, and I'm going to be honest. I'm voting no, so that's 5-2 as a majority. I don't know why we're going to table it. This is like 3 years we have this discussion. Nothing changes. What's the reason we want to table? I've got 5 no's.
Oh, you have 5 no's.
Yeah,
now?
I'll throw mine in. I'm a no.
Okay, we have 5 no's. Okay,
So-
you don't need to have the meeting discussion. Okay.
All right. So that wraps that up. Sounds like we will not be joining NYSBA this year again. Okay. We'll take it up again next year. All right. We've got community survey. Patty, who's got that one? I don't know if I know you had the administration sent something to the board.
Yes, I included it in the last 2 Friday packets. It's just a general community survey if you want to send one out or not. And it basically is asking about critical thinking, how we're doing with that, financial literacy, civic responsibility. It goes into college readiness, portfolios, how we're doing traditional courses and more new learning experiences. Are you satisfied with the extracurricular offerings? Do you feel the schools provide support to students in need? Facilities, resources, and fiscal responsibility. So it's a general survey. I think the question is, do we want to send a survey out is what was being asked.
Let me open up the comments. I know Justice was on your list.
I just
so.
think it's an outlet for stakeholders in the community just to say where their priorities are for the district. It's just more, I like to make decisions based on data and not just anecdotal stories and the people that send the emails or show up the meetings. It's just more data to make decisions.
Any other questions or comments? I think we were all a majority to say, yeah, let's create the survey. I don't know if there's any specific issues with the survey that the administration put together. So Sabrina, we'll start with you.
I'm fine with putting it out.
You good, Jess? It's 2. Steph?
Does administration think it's valuable?
I think always hearing from stakeholders is valuable. Unfortunately, one of the things we run into is not all stakeholders fill it out.
Participate, right.
But I think any information we can get from stakeholders can only help us guide decisions and help us make the district better.
Okay, so I'm a yes.
Yes. Rob?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with it. Unfortunately, you're going to get, I don't know if there's a section, I look at it's a Google sheet and, if there's opportunities for people to actually weigh in with their own personal opinions.
It's like
I don't think
favorability.
not.
It's just scoring
Yeah.
based on favorability.
So look, at the end of the day, I mean, our administration is extremely busy. As long as it's not taking them away from their the work that they're doing, I have no problem with it. But if it's going to be a tremendous burden and it's going to take them away from the work they're doing, I would say the community is very good at telling us if we're doing a good job or not, and telling us if we need something or don't need something. So I can go either way. I'll just go with the board majority.
Okay. Dennis? Yes? Meredith? Yes. Mike? Yep. So yes. So it's a unanimous yes. Okay.
We'll work to get that out.
Perfect. Okay. Next one was driving recruitment. I know we had a conversation I think it was the last meeting. We Transport was here. And I think the question from the board member was, how can we maybe work with We to
I
help
think we're
recruit?
asking, are you comfortable if we put their advertisements out trying to recruit bus drivers? Nothing
Okay.
more than that. They would definitely handle it. Michelle, you can jump in and share more.
They were asking for some signs at our buildings because that's where we see the most traffic coming through.
Yeah. Let's just go around real quick. Sabrina, yes, yes, yes.
I thought Matt Bauman had brought this up. He was looking for possible using this as a training facility to train people to get their CDL. We learned that we didn't have the right certification for that, so that's out. Yeah, signs, I'm okay with that.
Signs. Yep. Dennis? Good. Meredith? Yep. Mike?
Just, I'd want legal to weigh in before we start posting somebody's advertisements on our buildings, right?
Yeah, we can look at that. We'll look at the underlying contract to make sure it's permitted.
Good call. So barring any legal issues, we're good. Okay, that's fine. Same here. So we're good to proceed. We'll just get with Ingerman on that one. Okay. And then the last one is the transportation proposition. So there's been some conversations. Obviously, transportation is a challenge. I think it's really statewide and countrywide in terms of getting drivers, especially with the ruling from the federal government that came down, which caused a lot of the challenges we have. So the question for the board is, about a year ago, we put a proposition out on the budget to expand the distance that we provide buses, right? Michelle, can you just take us through that real quick at a high level? Because the question is, do we want to put that back on the ballot this year for the community to vote on?
Okay, so currently for Sachem, our transportation limits are if you're K through 12, you can walk up to a distance of a half a mile. And for K through 8, the maximum distance for transportation is 15 miles. And for 9 through 12, it's 25 miles. The state limits are K through 8 can walk a distance of up to 2 miles. And 9 through 12 can walk a distance of up to 3 miles. And the maximum distance is 15 miles. So when the community votes in your transportation limits, it has to be put up to a community referendum. If a district offers transportation limits that are more generous than the state limits, there's a cost to that. So every 3 years, the district has to file with our ST3, which is our financial filing in the fall. It's something called the non-allowable pupil decimal. We submit a report, and I brought it with me to show you.
And Michelle, just for the record, we're providing more
We're
than the
providing-
state
Correct.
suggests or the guidelines. So
Correct.
we're the generous district at this point.
Correct.
Quote
So-
unquote generous, right?
So
Yeah.
we submit every one of our routes to the state every 3 years. And what they look at is the mileage of the route, the number of pupils that they consider allowable that exceed the state limits, and then the students that they consider non-allowable, which fall below the state limits. And you do that for every single route, and then you come up with a ratio. Now, when we submit our financial filing in September and October every year, we submit, all of our expenditures, and we receive transportation aid at 57.2% of allowable expenditures. So we have, say, $24 million in transportation expenditures. They look at this non-allowable pupil decimal that we came up with, which for Sachem is, it's small, it's 3.43%. But when you multiply that by 24 million, you get over 800,000 in non-allowable expenditures. So if we take those, it actually for this year was 846,000 in non-allowable expenditures, and you apply our transportation aid to that, we are losing $483,000 in aid by offering more generous mileage than the state mandates.
So it's costing us close to $500,000 to be quote unquote more generous.
Correct.
Right. Okay. And just in fairness, I know we had a lot of concerns from community members last year because some of our buildings cross major roads. We've got a traffic, crossing guard challenge, et cetera, right? And just to be, again, more transparent, this failed last year.
Correct.
But the question is, do we put it back on the proposition, on the budget this year for the community to make a decision on?
Correct.
Right? Questions from the board or comments? Steph, Jessica? And then Mike.
Last year, we went to state minimum. Do we remember? No,
No,
right?
last year,
No, but
we
I
were
don't
looking to go for K through 8 to 1 mile.
Okay.
9 through 12 was 1.5 miles. And then to reduce the 9 through 12 from the 25 miles down to the state limit of 15 miles.
Okay. So we're still being more generous. And then we had gotten in the packet the ridership. So do we have a percentage of ridership?
I don't have those head counts yet. I just, while we were here, emailed our transportation supervisor to say I need those counts. We did it for last week. So
Right.
I'll have that information
Okay.
for this Friday's packet.
Okay, so I would be okay reintroducing it because of the amount of we're still at a deficit even though we're doing better. So I would be okay with reintroducing it and letting the community decide.
Okay. Jess, question?
Have we engaged the county or Suffolk County PD for any of the traffic mitigation strategies and crossing guards? Because I just feel like reintroducing it the same way, where the biggest concern is that we're going to be expecting, children to cross Portion Road, Nichols. If you look at the map, it's not safe, and that's county funds. It's those crossing guards are. So unless that infrastructure is in place, I would in good conscience never move this forward if it was up to me, because it's a huge safety issue. And so unless we're having that infrastructure and engaged, the county and Suffolk County PD on traffic mitigations and crossing guards, I think it's a huge student safety issue.
Yeah, and I don't think we've asked administration to do that. The question here is, do we want to go down that path? And if we go down that path, then that could be the ask of admin to say.
I think it's worth exploring. I think
right?
there's a
So
cost
I don't want
savings.
anybody to get the impression that, we asked somebody to do something. We haven't. This is just the open conversation. If we do decide to go down that path, that could be step one is we've got to engage Suffolk County, right? But
That would be my inclination. I would be in favor if we were able to prove that there was infrastructure in place to keep kids safe.
okay, I think I
So
had
I
Mike.
can say in the past, when we've had to ask for crossing guards, we have to show the need at that time. Like, it's not that they'll predict what it will be and work with us in predicting. I know, in any building that we've asked for additional security or crossing guards, it's showing that there's a hazard there, and that's when they will implement one.
So there has to be a hazard first.
Well,
putting
if we
kids
were to
in
do this,
unsafe.
crossing any major roads would be a need for a crossing guard.
And what's the turnaround time? Like, if this was voted in, would we still potentially go through how much time of the school year where there's no systems in place before?
I would say in the past, as long as we've shown the need, it happens pretty quickly. But I can't guarantee.
Because I would imagine this would
this
be
would
significant
pass.
versus just adding one crossing guard. We're talking about
Many.
significant. And so is there any way to have that conversation with legislature, to, Suffolk County, to see if we could come up with a proactive plan instead of reacting to something that passed? Because I think there's an opportunity to save money. I just think it needs to be done thoughtfully.
Mike, did you have something? And then Rob.
Just want to ask, so this is, are you talking about putting this on for this coming vote?
That's the question at hand.
Oh, okay. Because a couple of things. One is I think last year it failed pretty significantly. I don't think the community really had an appetite for it, right? It was
The numbers were 5,266 people voted, 2,198 yes, 3,068 now. So basically a little less than 1,000.
It doesn't look like the community really had an appetite for it. The other thing, of course, is if you go down to 15 miles, how many Catholic schools did we just cut out of busing? St. Anthony's for sure.
And St. John the Baptist, and I would have to look at the map for the others. That we
So
transport to.
we wouldn't be giving those people much notice. So I wouldn't look to put it on this year. I mean, I would at least wait another year. That seems to be more logical. Right now, I don't think the community has an appetite for it. And I think we really need to plan this out like we did with the school buildings, right? We finally took a good approach and came to the conclusion we weren't going to close anything. I think this is pretty impactful. As Jessica said, there's going to be safety concerns that need to be looked at. So I wouldn't look to do. I'm not saying let's not do it. I'm saying let's not try to do it this year.
Okay. Rob, and then Dennis, and then Rob, Dennis stuff.
Yeah, I know it was in our packet. The number of people. If we went to this 1 mile, okay, how many families or how many households would be impacted by it?
So going from a half a mile to a mile, at a half a mile, you have 689 walkers.
Mm-hmm.
At 1 mile, you would have 2,540 walkers.
So we're more than tripling the number of walkers. Okay. So we've been having this conversation forever. I think, Jim, I sat in the audience and, back in 2005, you guys had very similar conversations about transportation. And the problem we have with this and the concerns I have is that our buildings are not equipped, okay, for the number of cars that you would put on the road, okay, to let the kids out. It's already chaotic, okay, and that's that's not what the transportation as it is right now. The other issue I have is that people buy homes in the community knowing that I'm buying a home, my kid's going to get a bus, and all of a sudden we change the guidelines, and now parents have to revamp their entire work schedule, okay, possibly take a different shift in order to get their kids to school, and then worry about how to getting their kids home, which brings me to the other thing. We're getting kids home. I mean, I was adamantly opposed to cutting after school buses where kids either don't have transportation, but now we're forced with crossing roads like Patrick Coburg Road and Portion Road. And I sat up here years ago and said, well, who's going to tell the parent that we saved, $150,000, but I'm sorry that you lost your child because we didn't have busing for them to cross the road. So there's a lot of things. I mean, if safety is our number one, thing, making sure that we have safe and secure environments for our kids, we have to provide them with transportation. And I'm going to be honest with you, putting it up, I guess, if you want to get people out to vote, they're going to come out and vote, because there's no way this community is going to absorb, okay, those challenges. Okay, I know we don't pay a lot of taxes compared to other districts, but we still pay a considerable amount of taxes. People want transportation. They want the kids to arrive to school and arrive home in a safe manner. I mean, last year, 58%, no. Okay, if we went out with a piercing of the cap and we had a 58% disapproval, would we go out the following year with another cap budget, piercing the cap? We probably wouldn't. So I think it's too new. Okay, look, if we were in a situation where we had to cut all clubs and all sports and all activities of kids, then it's a dire situation. We would have to, think outside the box and maybe look to expand it. But I just think a lot of people are going to be impacted by it. I don't think the community, as Mike said, has an appetite for this. And I just, we have to listen to the tone of our community. They came out and they spoke very clearly last year that they were no for this. So either we're not listening or we just don't care what their concerns are. But we have to listen to the people that put us up here, okay, and vote for us to advocate for children. So I would be a no on putting it up.
Rob, thank you. Dennis?
So I don't want to beat a dead horse. Rob hit pretty much every single same thing I was thinking along a lot of the lines, and safety obviously is our number one concern. I don't even think administration's the ones who wanted this up here. This is more of a board that we wanted to bring this back to the table. So, I mean, we can all sit here and talk about it. I'm 100% in agreement with Rob. There's no way right now that I think that this community wants that. I mean, I wouldn't even want to put it forward with the safety. And to be honest with you, I'd rather see first, we talked about how a lot of these buses are empty. So first, let's start consolidating buses after 2 months, have the bus company do their evaluation. If there's 20 kids on a 60 person bus, let's start consolidating the big buses and saving money there first. I get why we're thinking it is because there's a problem with drivers right now, but we can't just keep bailing people out to have some kid crossing that's highway.
Yeah, no,
I
Dennis,
can't do it.
you raise a great point. So, the interest is reducing transportation costs. So I think you brought that up last time as well. So that's maybe a good alternative. So thank you. Meredith?
So I'm the one who originally many years ago thought of this and said, why don't we vote on it? We voted on it last year. It didn't pass. But one thing I will say to the public is that if this electric bus mandate comes down the way it's supposed to come down, it is going to cost us a tremendous amount of money that we're not going to be able to have. And it's something that should be thought about in the future. It's something that we should have great detail for the families, like just going from 689 to 2540. Great. How many of those current 689 drive their kids anyway? Because there's lots of them. As far as we're not able to accommodate all these cars at schools, we've got tons of kids that are supposed to be on buses right now that are getting driven every day. So we need to really drill down the numbers. We need to put something in place where parents are committal. If you are entitled to a bus, you're committing to that bus, because to just keep sending buses out and sending buses out and sending buses out. I agree with the safety factor, but there are plenty like I grew up in a town where we crossed Sunrise Highway and we crossed Merrick Road, and we didn't have elementary buses at all. We had junior high and high school, but I lived far enough away that I was crossing major streets to get to my middle school. So we have to really understand that it's not just a budgetary thing for today. It's a budgetary thing for the future, and especially if this electric bus thing goes through.
So Meredith, short term, is that a no or?
I would say, is there any way to put it on that that if it passed, it would be something that we were doing in the future, or if it passed, we have to do it the following school year?
No, it could be for the following school year. You could put it on this year, effective 27-28, correct?
Well, that would be our following.
You would put on this year's proposition to take place July of 2027. Well, wouldn't you want to do your due diligence before you put it on a proposition to make sure you want to put it on a proposition?
Yeah.
Right.
So Meredith, it's a yes, sir. So
I'm a no for this year,
Okay.
but I'm definitely advising the community we have to
Yep.
keep revisiting this.
yeah, I agree. So I'm going to weigh in as well. I'm a no for this year, but I think transportation as a whole has to be addressed. We can't keep going down the same path. It's a challenge. Right? Dennis raised a good point in terms of, do we consolidate routes? The e-bus thing's a challenge. So yeah, no for this year, but I think let's get this front and center and figure out a plan collectively. And Steph, I'll let you get the final comment.
I just want to say, previously to me being on the Board of Ed, I was on the legislative committee. The crossing guard situation was addressed years ago, and it's such a complicated process. The community can't even really advocate for it. It goes through the sheriff, it goes through the police department. It's a big thing to have to, so that's why what Superintendent Trombetta said is that it really needs to have a need, because they won't even discuss it with you if there's not a risk already in place. And it wasn't something that's just been like discarded by administration or even the community. It was something we dug deep into previously. It could be a charge for next year for advocacy for the legislative committee again, though. But just to let everybody know, it was something that was really dug into. Just personally, I felt that certain schools, and I'm not going to name them, needed more, and we were advocating for it. And it wasn't, the process is very, very, very laborious.
Thanks, Steph. So I think we're all in agreement that transportation should be addressed. So I think it's just an ongoing conversation that the board will take up, right? Okay. And that's it for the board discussion items tonight. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Takes us to section 16, future items for discussion. Anybody have any future items for discussion? Rob?
Yeah, just not really future item for discussion, but last week on this was the 18th, I attended the Skills USA Area 6 Championship, and obviously I'm there at my school. I chair many of the contests related to the culinary arts, the restaurant service, so on and so forth. But I always make a point to make sure I get over to the table at the award ceremony to see the Sachem kids. And this year in particular, the Sachem North and the Sachem East kids really did an amazing job. It seemed as if every time a competition came up, it was Sachem North or Sachem East. And we had several of our students involved in cosmetology to get the first, second, or third place in the competition. And it, it's funny. I'm over there taking a picture with the kids, and my boss is walking by me going, "Those aren't our kids. Well, they're my kids." All right, where I sit on the school board. I'd like to, if the board is okay with it, I'd like to recognize them at an upcoming meeting. And I think a perfect opportunity would be is that they're going to be leaving on April 22nd to go to the New York State competition in Syracuse. They'll be gone Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We have a meeting on the 21st. I think it would be a great send-off to them to let them know that we're pulling for them. We want to, we wish them the great success. So if we could maybe schedule something and reach out to Mr. Vickers and
We can try. We have one student going to states.
One.
Okay.
But we had a second and a third place winner.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. So if we could recognize the kids in first and second. What? Oh, that's the same week. Either way, any kid.
Anyway.
It's not just. I think I'm not sure if we had winners in structural electricity or if we had winners in carpentry, but any kid that I think that plays first, second, and third, we should recognize them.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Thanks, Rob. The only other future, I'll throw it out there. I know the Sachem Swim Club was the concerns about the Sachem North Pool. They approached us about utilizing East on certain times that school may not be in session. So I know we need to take that conversation up. They've asked for, they were referencing policy 1500. We can talk about it. I don't know if we need to change a policy or do we just write an amendment to the contract to allow them to do that? But I think we need to go through those costs. So Mike, did you have a question on that or is this something separate? So I think if we're okay, I think next board meeting, because we do need to get back to the club on a response. So we'll put that on the agenda for next board meeting. Okay. Mike?
Yeah, if we could we discuss the next meeting some focused restorations? I'd like to hear from other board members.
So what do you mean by focused?
Like Jessica mentioned, clubs for the elementary schools.
Okay.
What would that be? What would that look like? How much would that be? Right. And I'm not talking about let's go out and spend a couple $1 million, but there may be a few things that could make a really big impact for a really small amount of money. So
fair enough. Steph?
I wanted to discuss possibly making it so that we could accept this legislative committee again and then fill in applicants as needed. I know that Meredith had, brought up some things, but I think if we could continue with the same people, if they want to continue, I think it would help us with our momentum going forward, not to have to retrain people to work on the legislative committee. So obviously fill in new people instead of starting new every year. Yeah, if they want to stay. I didn't ask them yet, but.
Okay, thanks, Steph. Meredith?
I'm hoping we can task the committee with, apparently there's something, and I never heard of it, but there's a drug out there and it's called 7-OH and another one called Kratom. The withdrawal from these are stronger than heroin and fentanyl. Our teens are being exposed to them. They are currently illegal in Nassau, but not in Suffolk. So these kids are going right to drugstores, right to gas stations, all gas stations locally to our schools. And they're buying these drugs and they're using them. And I had not heard of any of this. I didn't understand any of this. And then sending these kids for withdrawal, it's actually painful withdrawal. And they're extremely addictive. So there is a bill that's in draft from James Mazzarella from Senator Riches, and it doesn't have a number yet because it's still in draft, but I'm hoping that we can task our legislative committee with working on this, and hopefully we can, as a board and as a school district, get behind this in a bipartisan way and push it forward, because it shouldn't be legal in Nassau or Suffolk. And if Nassau can already do it, I don't know why we're so far behind.
Okay, if we want to have a discussion, maybe somebody can just get some information on this and find out, more about it and who's sponsoring a bill, and we'll go from there. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Great. At this point, we'll make a motion to go into exec session for the purpose of discussing personnel items as well as a community concern. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Steph, second by Jessica. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you, everybody. Good night.